Recognize this? You pick up your phone to check the time, and somehow you end up in a 2-hour social media vortex. Our phones have become the world's trickiest escape rooms, masterfully engineered to keep us distracted and scrolling endlessly. Meet Caroline Cadwell, a tech industry veteran who stepped off the attention economy hamster wheel to pioneer something delightfully counterintuitive, a technology that actually wants you to stop getting distracted. Her users save an extra hour and 22 minutes every day for offline use. And they keep saving it month after month after month. So let's discover how she's cracked the code to defeating digital distraction. Hey, Caroline. Great to have you on the call today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, RH. It's great to see you again.
We couldn't have a real fireside chat, but we're doing this one remote.
Well, it keeps our carbon footprint a little bit lower, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
totally agree there. So you're in the UK right now. I'm based out of Amsterdam, the Netherlands, so we're a little bit further apart. But thanks for taking the call today and discussing your major world problem and the technology that you're building to help solve it. So let's start there. What if you would describe the problem that you decided to tackle? What would that be?
Yeah. It's a really pervasive problem, just to frame it for everyone. I'm battling the problem of distraction in a way that it really impacts people's quality of life. So specifically, maybe something relatable, you pick up your phone to check the time and your thumb automatically has unlocked your screen, which was not what you maybe intended to do. And then suddenly you have tapped on this colorful icon on your home screen and then automatically cycled through to another second favorite app. And suddenly, by the end of the day, 4 hours have been spent, 5 hours, 6 hours have been spent scrolling on stuff that you don't particularly care about or remember. And it's an opportunity cost problem in the habits that we have of how we use our phones.
And if you would give this a name, what would you call it?
Yeah. Digital well-being, digital habits.
Yeah. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, this is a major problem. I struggle with it myself, but I also see it with my family, with my children. They're teenagers now. They're not glued to their phones, luckily, but they have this tendency, and so it's great that you're working on this. You're trying to solve for it. So totally agree there, major problem. Can you take us back to the moment where in your career you decided to focus on this particular topic? I know you have a background in technology and you work with several digital companies before, and then all of a sudden you make this switch to kind of the other side of it and defending people from digital unwellness or digital addiction, maybe. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So you're right. I spent 15 years working in early stage tech startups, mostly consumer facing, some B2B. And I eventually went through a burnout, and that's a whole other episode. But in short, it was a lack of control of my own schedule, and it's kind of toxic. I hate to use that word because it's so buzzy right now, but genuinely not normal, respectful workplace interactions. And the last component of why I burned out was the one I could control, which is boundaries with work. And I found myself looking at Slack or work email or responding to things or taking work calls in moments that I should have had downtime, like walking my dog, and being able to look at something green and not be looking at a screen. And so, following that and following the recovery from that, I took some time to think about what I really cared about in terms of what kind of company I wanted to work in or start. And in my case, I've known for a long time I wanted to be a founder. And I've kind of used my career to train to become one and kind of cover all the different operational aspects and learn what I could. And following that burnout, I ended up meeting my current co-founder, Jorn, and he was already working on Unpluq. And Unpluq is a tool to help you spend more time offline, be more mindful about how you use your phone. And it made a lot of sense to me from a work perspective in terms of bringing in boundaries. And it was really interesting because for him, it was about focusing during work. And so you can see how, yeah, how distraction with our phones and how using them in the wrong way or at the wrong time, which is, they've been engineered to make us do that, by the way. A lot of money has been poured into keeping our attention on that screen and using our biological responses to make us want to do that. Um, yeah, a lot. It was something that mattered to me personally and would have impacted my life a year earlier if I had known about it in a positive way, and that I thought I could contribute to with the skills that I had built over the last 15 years.
And maybe it's also good now that we're here that we talk a little bit about the technology itself. You mentioned your co-founder, Jorn. He was already working on this idea. What was the idea behind Unpluq?
Yeah. So the general concept is, why is it so hard to not look at our phones? Why is it so hard? Why can't you just put the phone down? And I think, newsflash, if you could just put the phone down, everyone would be putting the phone down. And yet screen time is increasing every year. Our daily screen time continues to go up, and it's certainly worse in younger groups that grew up with the technology and didn't just adopt it when they were older.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if that were the solution, we'd be doing it. But for some reason, it's not so easy. Willpower is not enough. Willpower is your opportunity to find a tool or system that will help you to put the screen down. That's when you can exercise willpower, is to help yourself find a sustainable change and a way to do that sustainable change. It is not doing the change itself in this case. And so he was finding that when he was in his studies, when he was still in university, because my co-founder Jorn is a bit younger than me, and he was finding that he would check the time and suddenly be playing a game of chess or in a WhatsApp group responding to things, and it was frustrating because he wanted to control his time differently. He wanted to be using that time to study and then be done. And instead it would drag on longer than he intended. And I had a similar experience, right, with work. I was working all the time, even when I didn't intend to, and it was making me stressed out. So I think that's kind of what triggered the beginning of it, and it started thinking about, like, well, why is it so hard? And it's so hard because the existing solutions are all on that same screen. They're digital, and they're
Yeah.
very easy to bypass, and that's by design because we've been trained on these particular, what we call design patterns, where even a normal person who's not in tech automatically knows where to tap, where to interact on their phone. And so if you look at, for example, the screen time settings that your phone might natively have. So if you have an iPhone, there's focus times or there's app limits. When you reach those app limits or you get to that focus time, your phone will prompt you, do you want to disable for today and ignore
Yeah.
this limit, or do you want 15 more minutes? And the option to close the app is the smallest,
Yeah.
most frictionful one to tap.
Just give
And
me
so
15 more minutes. Yeah.
right, that's the easiest one to tap, actually. That and disable for the day. And the close the
Yeah.
app and stop is the one that is by design the hardest to choose. Um, and we started thinking about, why are digital solutions not working and what else can we do? And it occurred to us that we need more friction. There's a theory around this, actually, called the rational override theory. And in short, you need to make things that you don't want to do harder to do.
Yeah.
And a good way to do that is to force a different part of your brain to make the decision. So when you are on a screen and you're making decisions, you're using one part of your brain. And by making you do something physical in order to complete that decision, you actually invoke a different part of your brain to work, which gets you out of that pattern, that Pavlovian response of, hey, I was looking at the time and suddenly I've opened an app and I've unlocked my screen and I'm scrolling. And so with Unpluq, we thought about, how can we introduce a physical action? And we did that by making an NFC-based key. So if you're not familiar with NFC technology, it's the same thing as wireless payments. So you need to physically touch your phone and our wireless key, which I would show you. But if I wanted to open apps that I shouldn't be opening right now, I would literally have to go downstairs and get my keys because it's a little fob on my keychain.
Yep. Yep.
And that changes what decision you make about using your phone. It stops the unintentional scrolling. And that's good because at the end of the day, I don't think anyone says, gee, I wish I'd spent another hour on Reddit or TikTok or Instagram or news or anything else on their phone.
And it works.
Does work. So that's it's kind of a predecessor to having a successful company is does the product actually help people? And indeed it does. And it helps people more than it helps them with digital solutions. So we've actually done a study with Tilburg University where we looked at a digital only solution, our digital only solution, because we do also have a free app that does work. It will save you some screen time. But if you're using a physical interrupt, and in our case, it's the Unpluq tag, you actually will reduce your screen time by almost an hour and a half a day on average, which if you think about how many hours you're awake every day, it's more than a month's worth of time per year that you'll recover and get to spend offline and spend doing other things.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And by the way, I do have I've got the fob, and I've been using it, and it's interesting, right? Because you start to come up with new innovative ideas of like, where do I put the tag such that it takes me longer to kind of fetch it. Like you're saying, you put it downstairs, right? So you have to go down the stairs to get it, and then unlock the phone, and it's just a bit of a hassle. So I might as well just go back to work or do whatever I want to do in real life. So yeah, so that's fantastic. Now, so you said that for you personally, this came after a period where you were in a position where you were getting like all these notifications all the time and work interruptions and Slack, and that got you to a burnout, which is totally understandable. Can we talk a little bit about how we as a society got to this? Like, how did we end up in this situation?
Yeah. How do we end up on average spending like more than 5 hours a day on our phones?
Yeah.
Where 10 years ago most of us didn't have them in terms of smartphones. And it's been a really rapid change in our behavior. It's now for most people the first thing that we reach for every morning is our smartphone.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting question because if you zoom back to the 50s and 60s when people were starting to have TVs in their homes, everyone was saying, "Oh, it's going to rot your brain. This is terrible. Like we shouldn't be, what do they call it? The boobsug, like the brain. Anyway, bad for your brain was the general messaging, right? And obviously that's not quite what happened. But certainly, children who were denied active parenting in lieu of watching a screen had worse outcomes in their lives. So we've known for a long time that spending more time by ourselves or watching screens instead of interacting with other humans is not good, especially for developing brains. But then what happened is we got to the 90s, and especially in the US, and I'm American, I live in Europe for the last 10 years, but I'm going to speak a bit from an American perspective and about the American market because Unpluq is available worldwide, and we have customers all over the place, and especially in the Netherlands where we're operationally based, and in the UK. But 75% of our customers are in the US. And I think it's because it's such an individualistic society. And that perpetuates the damaging part of these habits of how we use content, how we're consuming content on our phones. So let me bridge the gap here. We got TVs in the house. Everyone was worried about it. We were kind of okay. But we started noticing that people who spent an exceptionally large amount of time in front of the screen, especially developing brains, not so good. We zoom forward to the 90s, and people start having cable TV and more choice and almost the equivalent of streaming in a way, because there's always something to watch, right? It used to be that we had.
I remember CNN, like when they started in the 90s, that was such a massive change, because all of a sudden there was news the
24/7.
entire day, right?
Yeah,
24/7. Yeah.
right. And it's not like there's more news happening. There's not
No.
more events happening. Um, we just started reporting on it all the time. And of course, for people who maybe were born after this point, it's important to note that before this, you would watch news for, from 8 to 9 in the morning, there'd be a show, and from like 5 to 6, and then there'd be another one late, like 9 to 10 p.m., at least in the US. There'd be like 3 opportunities to watch the news during the day on your local station. And you would have, between 3 and 6 local stations, something like that. And the programming was set, it wasn't on demand. And if you didn't like the next thing that was on after the show you did like, you stopped watching the TV. Um, and also, when you were watching it, you were probably watching it with the other people in your house at the same
Hmm.
time
Hmm.
without headphones in,
Yeah.
watching the same screen together. So that promoted a different kind of conversation afterwards. If you all consume the same thing at the same moment, you're present with each other. It's not like, would it be better to read a book? Probably, but like if you're gonna watch a screen, better that you're doing it in a community, like a community experience of watching a show, watching a concert, watching a movie in a theater. It's a communal experience, right? Um,
But
as you
then the
pointed
mobile
out,
device, right?
mobile
Yeah.
device as well, but also, as you pointed out, news became entertainment. It became
Yeah.
24/7 dedicated channel. It became entertainment. We had to repeat or sensationalize things, and you'll notice that the language around how we report news has changed a lot in that time period from the 90s until now. And the kind of reporting that's done, it's skewed away from factual, this is what's happening, to a lot of opinion segments, a lot of like other types of content that are revolving around current events. We saw with that then the rise of smartphones. So first introducing through TV the 24/7 content cycle, more selection, always having something to watch rather than turning it off after the show you liked ended because there's nothing else you want to watch. Um, and then we get smartphones later on. Let's get past analog phones, the other types of flip phones and whatnot. So skip ahead to smartphones starting, more or less widely adopted in the US from 2008 onwards, certainly by 2010 in most developed countries. And we've now been living almost 15 years with smartphones. And we start to see individual consumption of media. So if you picture your living room, you're no longer sitting there all watching the same content at the same time and ending at the same time, but everyone is not interacting with each other, not making eye contact, not discussing the content, and all consuming individually their own content. And this is an important thing, because you start you're getting, how are you selecting that content? Part by choice, but part by algorithm, right? You're being suggested the next thing, it continues playing. You've got suggested shows that pop up that are different from the device next to you that your friend has or your family member has. And that serves also to radicalize things that you might have had kind of a gray area opinion about. So
Yeah.
now we have a lot more black and white opinions about things that are polarizing, rather than having a lot of gray area where we don't have an opinion about a certain topic, or we don't know about it, or we don't have an extreme view on it, any way of yes or no, or that's right or wrong, or any kind of polarizing view. And so we see this reflected in our greater culture and politics, where we're seeing more polarization and more differences and more reasons to feel different from one another, which is kind of destroying our sense of community and destroying our ability to connect with other people. And that human connection and bringing back more human connection is very much what Unpluq is trying to do.
So
The way we
actually,
do it,
that's the problem you're solving for.
yeah, is that we're not getting the human interaction that we really crave. And the number one thing that is preventing us from doing that is how much time we spend on our phones and how individual and isolating that time is.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And then, but at the same time, you have chosen to fight fire with fire, and you're using technology to combat this, tech addiction, or the unwellness that technology gives to us. Some people might say that will never work, and that we instead need to degrow from tech and maybe just get rid of some of those devices, or do otherwise. What do you say when, I'm sure people say that to you? What do you say when they come to you and give you that kind of feedback?
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily I haven't heard that often, because most people have realized how this habit is negatively impacting them, and the fact that they haven't solved it on their own, right? They
Right.
haven't just put the phone down. They haven't just gone and taken a walk outside without it. They
Yeah.
haven't. There's lots of things that you can do that are free to
Yeah,
not use your
you could
phone.
just
You can turn
leave
it
the phone at
off.
home. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. Yeah.
leave it at home. And
But we
yet we're not
don't.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing, is one, it doesn't work. The other is that it doesn't work for most people. Some people it'll work, but it's a small number. Um, the other thing is that it's much easier to add something to your routine
Hmm.
than to try to get you to drop something that even your physical responses are telling you that you enjoy, which is looking at
Okay.
that screen, right? So it's easier to meet someone where they are and add something in terms of promoting sustainable habit change. So if you think about like dietary change, it's easier to add more vegetables in first
Yeah.
than to get somebody to just stop eating the bad stuff.
Yeah.
But if you start getting more full on the good stuff,
Yeah.
it's going to be easier to leave the bad stuff behind because you're not feeling hungry.
I'm
So,
sorry, it didn't work for me. I'm now eating both all the time, and yeah, but
well, at least you have more
yeah,
nutrition, right? So, I mean, at least you're
yeah.
getting antioxidants and things like that. Fine. And you look perfectly healthy. I hope you feel
Thank you.
healthy.
It's the filter,
But
sure.
so it's kind of like, digital sugar, right? This screen time and
Yeah,
scrolling is digital sugar.
yeah,
Whereas, like, I don't know, Duolingo is a great app that I think for the most part, most people are not addicted to, although there are some exceptions, but most people, it's a positive thing that provides them, good habits and opportunity to learn another language, which is great for your brain. And like, there's some good things about it. So it's not like we're
yeah,
trying to just stop using devices altogether. And I don't think that's the right message to have in 2024, because if you can't do online banking and you can't uh, do two-factor authentication and you can't order an Uber when you need to,
mhm,
and that's why people are not on flip phones for the most part. If they do a flip phone, it's usually for a couple months and they end up back on a smartphone,
right,
because it's just not viable today in our
right.
society. It's not. Some places don't even take cash anymore,
Yeah,
and who's actually used a proper card machine lately? I mean, it's always tap to pay.
yeah,
So it's not really viable, and it's easier to add in a new solution. And it's also about paddling upstream. I mean, do we want to try to convince everyone that they shouldn't be using technology? And first of all, I don't feel that way. I think people should be benefiting from this technology and using it for good. There's a lot we can do and be more efficient and more productive, and solve the world's problems with this stuff, and do it faster with it. But we've got to curb back the parts of it that make us miserable as humans.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So if we would fast forward to uh, say 2040, 16 years from now, and suppose Unplug has wildly succeeded. Can you paint us a picture of how people's relationship with technology has changed? And what would a typical day look like?
Okay, so when Unpluq it has succeeded, which it's
No, it
on
will
its way
be. I'm
to.
sure it will
Yeah,
be. So
yes.
by 2040, it has been wildly successful. What does that
Yeah.
world look like?
I first of all, I think like it doesn't just have to be us. I think there will be a great ecosystem of solutions that help people rebalance the scales of who's in charge of how they interact with devices. Because right now, it's largely what we've been automatically trained to do by big tech. And that's
Yeah.
part of why, by the way, Unplug is not raising from not being funded by companies that are funding big tech. We actually are
Uh-huh.
funded by our customers and by other kind of small um,
Right.
investors that are interested in seeing this
They
change
don't really
happen.
have
So,
an incentive, right? I mean, what's in
right,
it for big tech to invest in you or to build similar
eh,
technologies into their tech?
right, a harder business model. It gives them a little bit of edge if they were to do it, which they're not really in a meaningful way. It would give them a little bit of marketing fodder of like, hey, we're doing the right thing, guys. But in reality, it would hurt their profit margins because they're fully making money on attention. And in terms of hardware like Apple, right, like iPhones, they make limited money on the device itself, but they make a lot of money on the App Store.
Yeah.
So if you're spending money in an online game, they're taking 30% of that.
Yeah.
Anything you spend through the app on your phone, Apple or Google is taking 30%. And a lot of people don't know that. And they don't think about it. It's not top of mind. But the reality is not all that money you spend goes to the app developer. It goes to Google and Apple. And that's where a lot of their funds are actually coming from. So we've gotten a little bit off topic from your original question.
The 2040 question.
Yeah, 2040. So if Unpluq, when Unpluq is wildly successful, 2040, well past when we've, been known. Number one, I think there's an ecosystem of other companies that are complementary or like us that are helping people to rebalance, because what we're setting out to do is help people understand that they don't have to live this way and that they can have the benefits of technology without so much detrimental impact on their well-being, their relationships, their happiness, their anxiety levels. I mean, who wouldn't be anxious if you were looking at news all day long, if you were seeing people to compare yourself to all day long on social media, if you never disconnected from work and had some time for yourself to be creative. I mean, boredom is something that we have very little of today, because when we feel bored, we pick up our phone. And that's a real shame, because boredom is what I think gives space for creativity and for us to come up with new innovative ideas. And if we don't create space for boredom, we don't have a very bright future as a society.
But Caroline, so we're still talking about mobile phones, but Mark Zuckerberg just showed us a pair of glasses, and we're going to be carrying these things around us, in front of our eyes all the time if he succeeds with this idea. So I guess, we need so much more to make sure we stay sane. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely about tech in general. So digital habits, the way we interact with the technology that's in our daily lives, and how we can tip the scales to be more in our favor as humans,
Yeah.
to make sure that we are getting the things that give us true and genuine fulfillment in life. And for the most part, it's not through screens. It's the memories we have of interacting with another human, the smile that a stranger gave us, the eye contact we made with someone close to us. It's not scrolling and messages and likes.
Okay. So, and clearly you've decided to make that leap and to transition from your prior technical or technology career path and towards something that, is still in technology, but helping people, get a little bit better, or, more healthier, more, what's the right word here? Like improve their digital wellness. You've made that transition, and there are plenty of people out there that I talk to who are in technology as well, and they feel that they would like to do something that is a little bit more fulfilling as well, but they kind of struggle to switch to a more impactful career path, like the one that you've chosen. What kind of advice do you have to these people if they're looking to do something similar?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the context of their life and their financial needs and
Yeah.
all these things are something to consider. But I think if the assumption that they're making is that having a business or working within a business that's having impact means not earning money, they
Yeah.
are wrong. I think that there's a huge industry here. In fact, we've calculated this industry of sort of digital habits, and it's particularly around phones, which, as you mentioned, it's not going to be just phones. It's also potentially VR in the future, augmented reality, smart TVs, all kinds of other devices, other types of things with screens of some kind or projections and displays. We're projecting it to be $23 billion of industry. And so it's not a minor industry. And of course, that's growing as well.
So it's a
So
major
I think
opportunity as well.
it's an opportunity. Yeah. And in fact, for me, I'm very interested in my life and having the opportunity to help women develop wealth. We're way behind. Women are way behind globally in terms of wealth and independence with money, not just in terms of earning power and lifetime earning power, but wealth in general and investments. And so I think that identifying these opportunities are of what are these industries that are coming up. Like AI is coming up, but guess what happens when AI is ruling our lives? Well, we have even more need to maintain the things that are uniquely human about ourselves. And one of those things is focus. Executive attention is the thing that makes us different from other mammals, right? It's that ability to focus on a singular thing, a singular task or topic for 15 minutes or more. And we've recently seen news that a human attention span is on average now less than a goldfish. And it's largely because of consuming short form video. So I think all of this for me is interrelated in that we can make a big difference. There are ways to have an impact and still have a healthy business. I don't think that these things are mutually exclusive.
Okay, great. Okay, so with that, we're kind of getting at the end of the conversation at the time slot that we had allotted. But I know you mentioned before that you're in a fundraiser right now. You're not raising with the big tech companies. Instead, you said that your funding comes from customers. And so do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So Unpluq today, we already have quite some customers. There's about 30,000 people using Unpluq every month. There's 4,000 paying customers, more like 4,500 these days. At any rate, we are still developing our products further. One of the things that we're focused on next is Unpluq Family. We've had a huge amount of interest from parents of kids of all ages. So, some kids start using tablets when they're toddlers. Others get their own device when they're 8, 9, 10. Some a little older. Each family is really unique in how they manage devices and screen time. But Unpluq is really flexible in terms of being able to have more control or less control over your child's device. And we want to further develop this to make it easier to use, more reliable for families. And so we're fundraising right now to fuel that growth and to create that solution. We have a MVP right now with kind of, if you're unfamiliar, minimum viable product. So it's just sort of a sketch of what it will be one day, but it does work. And yeah, we're fundraising publicly right now on WeFunder.
Yep.
And we've got customers who have invested. We also have some what we call angel investors involved with bigger tickets in the 25, 30,000.
What's the minimum ticket? People, as a consumer.
Good question. So like you can own part of Unpluq from $250.
Nice.
So it's really something that you can invest in. If you want to see this problem solved, if you want to see the world change and how we're interacting with our phones, if you want to invest because you think it's a big market, any of these are great reasons. And yeah, we want to build out Unpluq Family, and that's kind of the main part of what we're going to be using these funds for, is furthering the solution to better support the entire family, adults and kids.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Caroline. That was great. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.